Action Comics 964, written by, once again, Dan Jurgens, and art by Patrick Zurcher. So, we left off last issue. Superman came and found this Clark Kent that we're all curious about, and he takes him to his fortress. Not the one in the Arctic, the one that he built.
In his cave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the cave.
The super cave.
The super cave, sure. And he's brought him there because he's got like a gizmo from another planet or something that he can touch, and it'll let him know if he's telling the truth or whatever. Let him see his history. And a lot of this is just them discussing stuff and talking, and like Superman's like, I kind of want to say, I know you're not really Clark Kent because that's impossible because I'm really Clark Kent.
Because I'm Clark Kent, yeah.
Yeah, but I can't just say that because if he's actually secretly evil, then that, puts his family
Gives himself
in danger.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we play a lot of this, but there's a lot of interesting details that come out of this. One, was it Genetictron? Is that the name of the company?
Yeah, Genetatron or something like that.
Yeah. So they were the ones housing Doomsday, which makes sense because if you go back to the first issue of Action, you see like these people transporting him before he breaks out. So that syncs up with that. But they also reveal that there was another casing. There was something else being held there.
Yeah.
We don't know what, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was something that we've seen before in the past.
Yeah.
In Superman, some big monster of some kind. It can let your imagination run wild. But all this stuff with him, like being adamant, I'm Clark Kent, and when Superman uses this thing for him to prove, and he sees into his past, he sees all of his history, and instead of coming from Krypton, his parents died in a house explosion or whatever, and that's how he went to the Kents, and all this history built up. And I started having these crazy wild speculation ideas as I was reading this. I was like, what if he is actually telling the truth? What if New 52 Superman was never actually Clark Kent?
Yeah, but that doesn't gel with everything else that I've read in New 52 Superman.
No, I know it doesn't. I'm fully aware there's some details.
And so, to quote a friend, he was saying when we talked about this, he went, DC, you have some splaining to do. Because if that's the case, I mean, cool. I want to see the story that explains everything.
I'm not saying for sure that it is. I'm just saying I had the idea, and the reason why I sort of latched onto it a little bit is because I was thinking, well, New 52 Superman, the big problem a lot of us had with him was that he felt cold, he felt distant, he didn't feel like the Superman we had. And I'm thinking, well, if he wasn't raised by the Kents, if that's the reason, he never had that, and that's why he was this way, I'm like, oh, that could almost explain it, and almost in a retroactive way, kind of justify it a little bit. But
yeah,
I admit that there's probably other explanations that are far more likely.
Yeah, I like how it was basically the Clark Kent that we know, but just with these subtle changes. It still doesn't understand I'm having a hard time piecing the puzzles together about Superman. If this really was it, then what was Superman just running around as Superman? All this time independent from Clark Kent, and how does Lois factor in? And
that's a good question. This is why I think it's probably not correct. It was just a nice bit of pondering. I thought I had fun thinking about it. The most likely explanation is that Mr. Oz is responsible for his existence in some way.
It's just, we know that Clark and Lois from the Superman series, OG Clark and Lois.
Yeah. We
know that something's up because the way that the New 52 Lois and Clark have died. I've seen in what was that last story arc of Superman before the rebirth? And Superwoman.
Last Days of Superman.
Last Days, yeah, there we go. It was right there. All the pieces were on the table. But we know something's up because this Earth is still the Earth from before. But Lois and Clark are off. So where'd the other Lois come from then, too? Because is she different in the same ways?
Well, I think part of our speculation before is that they were both created because having the real Superman there was too much of a threat for Dr. Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So when he orchestrated all this universe shenanigans, he corrupted it, and maybe he took the real Superman and Lois out of the world that they'd actually always been in. Maybe we're still in the original world, but he put them elsewhere and made them think they were from this X pocket dimension universe from Convergence or what, you know, like
Yeah. Well, because they're also younger. Like, there's all the stuff there that, again, DC has some splaining to do, and I am biting on every piece of bait. You know.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. We're all captivated by this.
Yeah.
It's good fun.
So.
Now, just to wrap up the issue, Clark eventually writes this big article about how this world can trust this Superman who to them is new,
Yep.
which is good. I don't know if I quite buy that he's convinced by anything Superman does to write this article, but
Yeah, like Superman like kidnapped him and took him to the Rockies where he was super cold, and kind of held him captive and subjected him to like a polygraph test.
yeah, interrogation. He was interrogated.
Right.
By Superman.
So, but I did like a lot of what Jurgens had to say in that article about Superman.
Oh yeah.
So it was just a little awkward, I thought. And reading it the way that it's presented, I feel like that's a waste of panels.
Yeah. So I guess the last thing we should mention is that the Genetron building disappears because someone plants a device on it. It basically just vanishes from existence, and there's the pit of where the foundation would have been is just left there.
Yeah.
And the person who did this, we see him at the end go to his motel room or whatever. Do you know what this is? Do you have any idea what this?
This is that story that we saw teased. I want to say something like Godslayer.
Well, yeah, it says next Slayer of Gods, so I assume that's where it's going. But,
yeah.
Because
we saw him early in the issue in like a random page where he takes out. I can't remember what it was. It's been a while since I read it, but he takes out some creatures or like something to do with the Genetron building because he looks like a random. Like a bum, almost.
Yeah, he's
you know what page I'm talking about?
He's got long hair and he's got the cap on. He looks kind of homeless. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Because the last page is him coming to his like room, and he's got this big. It almost looks like a planet, but like miniature. Yeah. So it's fitting in a room, and it's got the big House of L emblem on it. So I'm not sure where that's going, but I'm intrigued. And
yeah, it looks like Warworld kind of with a S on it. So that's what I thought.
I can see it.
But yeah.
But that's action. Still, I'm enjoying that this arc's a very different arc from the first one. So, no, it was solid.
Much more pensive than, the first 3 issues of the last arc were just action.
Yeah. So. Which I'm sure we'll get to some action once this...
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. I'm not complaining. It's a nice...
Yeah.
All the other books that I'm reading, I have enough. So it's nice to have a slower down conversation of a book, basically.